It's time for Michigan's newest sports talk show, Mitten Madness.
And here he goes. Defense win championship.
Michigan sports talk from here in Battle Creek. The latest stories, the biggest games, all across the Mitten State.
That's not something to play with.
Streaming live and on demand on the 95.3 WBCK app. Here are your hosts, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes.
Hello there. Good morning. It is Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. We're set to talk Michigan sports for the next hour. We've got plenty to get into. It's exciting times all across the state in a variety of sports, and we'll cover as much as we're capable of over the next 55 minutes and change. DJ, before we get started, man, how are you doing? Because free agency's kind of got me not in a great place. So the Steelers are driving me nuts. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there in terms of free agency. I'm doing okay. I do really want us to go out and get a receiver. We let DK Metcalf go. The Bengals have placed a franchise tag on T. Higgins. So it looks like that dream isn't coming true this year. But other than that, I think I'm doing well. My lacrosse teams are making tons of moves that have me interested over there. My high school lacrosse team has gotten a weekend to practice. So things are vibing. We're looking pretty good this season. So yeah, like I said, this is always the best time of the year for me. Tons of lacrosse, tons of sports, and just really good times with great weather.
Yeah, I mean, we got baseball starting up, hockey's still in full swing, basketball is in full swing, plus March Madness is literally about to start. Plenty to be excited about. I'm just dreading that within a matter of hours, if it hasn't already happened as you're listening, Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback of my favorite team, and that'd been cool 3 years ago. It's not cool now, so am happy about DK Metcalf, though. I think that's fun. Speaking of that, just real quick aside, we would like to spend some time talking about the Detroit Lions in their offseason, but they've been pretty quiet. They just signed DJ Reed to replace Carlton Davis, who was hurt most of the year last year anyway. Try to beef up that secondary a little bit. Other than that, they really haven't done anything. Khalil Mack, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, those three guys are undebatable. Joey Bosa went somewhere else as well. So all the elite pass rushers are gone. So I think DJ's point from last week of, do what you can. A lot of options were taken away from them. They'll have to look to the NFL draft to maybe pair somebody up with Aiden Hutchinson on the pass rushing squad out on the edge. But what is currently going on, and I believe we're actually recording just minutes before tip-off of Michigan State and Oregon, so you have to bear with us a little bit when it comes to Big Ten tournament stuff. But what is going on is the 2025 TIAA Men's Big Ten Tournament, and both Michigan and Michigan State are obviously still in this thing. They have not played yet. They had the double byes as the number 1 and number 3 seeds, respectively. Michigan State, of course, got Oregon in that. Michigan got Purdue, who they split season series with. That certainly is an interesting matchup. But we don't want to necessarily talk about those games in past tense and, what may have happened. Instead, look ahead to some projections for both of these teams. DJ, you and I were talking before the show, Michigan State can win this whole thing if they want to. If not, everybody else has their favorites, and we'll learn who the winner of this whole thing is very, very soon. But, as it stands right now, Michigan and Michigan State both are going to the NCAA tournament, and what they do in the Big Ten tournament doesn't necessarily impact too much of what they're looking at as far as seeding goes. At this present moment, as DJ and I are talking before several games have happened in the Big Ten tournament, Michigan is the 6th seed in the Eastern bracket. They would be set to play VCU in Milwaukee if that were to hold true, whereas Michigan State is a 2 seed in the South bracket. They would be set to take on Bryant as a 2 versus 15 in the same quadrant, mind you, as the number 1 team in the land, the Auburn Tigers. DJ, do you see that kind of holding through? Regardless of what happens in the Big Ten tournament, how could things change for both of these teams over the course of the weekend?
I kind of don't see a lot changing just across the board, when you look at bracketology, a lot of these teams are in their conference tournaments, so like that doesn't change too much. You might see some automatic qualifiers change a little bit because that comes down to who wins the conference tournament. But a lot of these teams, I feel like these spots are kind of solidified. I think what you will see is a lot of movement between the 16s and the 11s, the 12s. Those first four games, those are the ones that kind of may see some movement here. I think that if you're in the field, you're in the field. Yeah. And you might see a bump up or down one seed, which really won't change too much for you. Michigan, I think, is probably hoping for none of the above. Maybe they could go down one, but they really don't want to go up any at all. I think they're on the right side of this bracket. You do have Duke on your side of the bracket, but other than that, I think they match up well with most of this side of the bracket. Tennessee could probably give them some problems, and so could Iowa State. But outside of that, I see Michigan having a very good chance of making a run out of the Newark division in this East bracket. And then the same thing goes for Michigan State. They're on a great side of the bracket for them. They don't really, sure, they could move up. That would be nice to have the one, but I don't think you're going to get it with Auburn being there, unless you move over to another bracket, another region in the bracket where somebody else falls in their conference tournament. They bump you up because you win yours. They're a one now. You're a one now. They're a two, and you're in a different region. But even if not, this region's good for you. Kansas might give you a little bit of trouble, but I haven't really been impressed with Kansas this year. You handled Oregon when you played them. Marquette's a tough team, obviously Auburn. But then after that, I think that this region also has huge drop-off to the tune of North Carolina being in a play-in game for the 11th seed. Like, this bracket is not great. So Michigan State has a chance to make a run, and there's a good chance this bracket is a true 1-2 Elite Eight matchup for them to see who goes to the Final Four.
For sure. I wonder, obviously we're dealing with a situation where we don't have the benefit of knowing, what Michigan State looks like in this year's Big Ten tournament. But I look around, without winning the Big Ten tournament, I don't know that Michigan State has an argument over Florida, Houston, or Duke. They certainly don't have one over Auburn to take a number one seed. I think even still Duke, even with the injury that was sustained to their star player late in the week, I don't think Duke's at risk of losing that one seed because they've been so good this year. Houston, obviously dominant in the Big 12, and Florida has had their way down the stretch with 4 or 5 of the top teams in the SEC, a conference that's sending 13 teams presumably to the big dance. And you look, the Big Ten got even weaker because first 4 teams out, Indiana, Ohio State included in that, they were both one and done in the Big Ten tournament by teams that are not expected to advance much further than they sit now. Oregon not expected to get past Michigan State. Ohio State's already out of this thing, losing to Iowa, and Iowa's already out of this thing because they lost to Illinois, just like they did last year. It's a tough road ahead, no matter what happens to you, but I do wonder if there is a possibility for them to, the Spartans, to take over that one seed in the bracket down there with Florida. I think that's the only one that they really have a shot at. But it's tough to see them actually getting that because for all intents and purposes, regardless of what may have happened in that Oregon game, I'm not convinced that Michigan State needs to win, and it's kind of for the reasons that you just laid out. If you look across that South bracket and the way that it is laid out right now for us as we're looking at it, obviously things have probably changed for you if you went and looked at it yourself, but right now the only team I think Michigan State has to fear whatsoever in that bracket are the Auburn Tigers, and they have shown over the past couple of weeks that they are not infallible. That is a team that can lose. They are beatable. and that will play well into Michigan State's chances there as well. Is there any chance for Michigan? I mean, because I don't, obviously we're dealing with the situation. We don't know what happened yesterday, but I'm not convinced that they can get past Purdue. And even if they do, I mean, is that game so monumental for Michigan that it could help kind of determine how they can perform in the big tournament? I mean, you lose to Purdue and now you're in a situation where, well, what's your confidence level at? Because you've really stumbled down the stretch, or you beat Purdue and now you can overcome anything. I mean, how pivotal is yesterday's game, regardless of outcome, to the future of Michigan basketball headed into the March Madness tournament?
I don't think it matters. I don't think if you're not fighting to get into the tournament, I don't think your tournament games matter. Like your conference tournament, because at the end of the day, you're scrapping all of that to go fresh into the tournament. Like every team before the big dance starts scraps everything that's happened in the season, and they go, okay, win or go home. The only game that matters is the one that's right in front of us.
Kind of has to be that way.
Regardless of what happens in the Big Ten tournament, Michigan's turning their focus to playing the best as they can in the national tournament, which means limiting those turnovers somewhere between 8 to 12, like we talked about. If it gets above 12, they're going to lose at some point. They may not lose to VCU in round one, even with more than 12 turnovers. But you throw 12 or more turnovers against Iowa State in round two, you're going home.
Yeah.
So it will really just come back to how well they can take care of the ball.
There's a lot of teams that will send you home packing if you turn the ball over more than 12 times in a 48-minute period. It's just not beneficial to your chances of survival in March Madness. All right, we'll take a break there, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the Pistons a little bit. They had a little bit of a stumble here that we need to contextualize for their postseason chances. We'll talk about it next here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK.
Yeah.
Here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK, Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. Let's talk Pistons. Detroit Pistons are two of their last three. That most recent one, a loss to the Wizards, I think weird is the best way to explain it, because they absolutely crushed them. They beat them by 20 points. One game prior to that, doubleheader there with the Wizards, and dropping one by 4 points, 129 to 125, to lose to one of the worst teams in the NBA. Strange timing, and not something you want to be doing when you're keeping pace with Indiana and Milwaukee. We were talking before the show, like the Pistons are kind of in a situation where they could have some home field advantage in the postseason if they would just take advantage of opportunities when they're given. Don't lose to teams like the Wizards, and as you pointed out last week, really the Clippers. I think it's a little bit more reasonable to lose to the Clippers than it is the Wizards, but here we are. DJ, what's got to change for? I mean, we're not hitting the panic switch. Let's be clear. But the Pistons are in that situation where they can climb the rankings and potentially get ahead of Milwaukee and Indiana. They just handle business. Where do they need to improve in order to maybe take advantage of the situation?
I don't think they need to necessarily improve or change or fix anything. I think it's more along the lines of don't fix what ain't broke, and kind of just continue doing what you're doing and revel in the fact that you're going to the playoffs. Pretty much at this point in the year, I don't believe that they're dropping outside of the top 8, which gives them even a solid chance to make it through the play-in rounds to get into the playoffs. Like, they're 9 times out of 10 a playoff lock at this point. So just celebrate that in itself. Like, getting up to a 5 or a 4 seed, is it better for you? Yes. But at the end of the day, all of those things are the same. They're in the playoffs. And that is the one thing to hang on to for this team. I do think you have to go out and beat the teams you should beat. Caveat, I don't think the Wizards' loss is that bad. A lot of people, objectively on paper and everything, it looks terrible. But there's a couple sayings in sports that are very true. One of them is it's hard to beat a team 3 times.
Yeah.
And the other one is it's hard to beat a team twice in a row.
Yeah.
And they played them twice in a row in a short amount of time, which that team has, like, the Wizards had zero time to forget what the Pistons did well. And they had zero time to forget that they just absolutely slapped them around the other night. Like, it's right there for them to see. And it's back in the same building. They have a chance to go and kind of get their get back. And then they were able to squeeze one out. And once again, they beat the Pistons by 4. This is not like, this is a matter of a couple of turnovers taken away, a couple made free throws that they missed, maybe a few layups that they missed. This game is a win for the Pistons. I'm not even looking at that Wizards loss like anything. I think they just have to continue to play Detroit basketball like they've been playing this year, and they're just really preparing themselves for the playoffs, whoever that first round series is going to be against.
Well, one thing that they have to look forward to is the fact that Jaden Ivey is out of the boot, hoping to return sometime this season. That would be a significant improvement right there. I think the biggest thing is I agree. I mean, losses happen. You know, another saying, the other team's allowed to try, even when they're bad, you know, and like you said, Washington had the opportunity to get their get back, and they did that. You know, it's not like Detroit didn't do similar things last year. I mean, a team's going to win a handful of games a year. There's no winless teams in NBA history. Now, when you play as many games as they do, something's bound to happen and go your way. But still, I would emphasize that I do think there is room for improvement, because we've kind of seen Detroit, since they got above 500, they kind of surged a little bit, got 5 or 6 games above 500, but they've struggled to really separate themselves in a manner that would, again, put them ahead of Indiana and Milwaukee in the standings. Again, zero doubt in my mind. There's no worry whatsoever that they're not going to make the playoffs. And in fact, I still don't see them dropping lower than 6. You said 8. I don't see them being in the play-in games at all. There's a significant gap between Detroit and the collection of Atlanta, Orlando, Miami, and Chicago. Now, obviously, when you play these teams, you can't give them an inch. You can't allow them to make any ground against you. You know, if they do it by other means, fine, whatever, but you cannot lose to any of those 4 teams, and a couple of them I know are coming up, so you just gotta be careful is kind of where I'm trying to get at from this, because you got about a month to make any amount of moves that you're going to move. Actually, less than a month. April 13th, the end of the regular season. You got less than a month to handle business against some pretty formidable teams. You got Oklahoma City tonight. That's a pretty big opportunity to prove what you're capable of in the postseason. You got Miami middle of the week. Next week, you've got Cleveland at the end of the month. You've got Minnesota at the end of the month. Oklahoma City again to kick off April. And then you close with a 3-game stretch that's really going to test what you're capable of in the postseason with the Knicks, Milwaukee, home and away.
Probably not. Both of those teams will probably be sitting a good, considerable amount of talent.
True.
Just because it's so late in the year, both of them are going to have their playoff seeds locked up by that point.
If the seeds are locked in. I agree, there probably will be. But if they're not, Milwaukee's one of those teams that you got to handle business again.
The thing is that the top 3 in the East is so far ahead. Of of the 4 through 6, which is Milwaukee, Indiana, Detroit. None of those 3 are. There are not enough games left for them to make that jump.
I mean the competition between Milwaukee, Indiana, and Detroit. I'm not talking about trying to get up ahead and sit up there with Boston and Cleveland, because you're not doing that.
Maybe Milwaukee, but the next game won't mean anything.
Right.
One of the Milwaukee games might, but it's going to be.
We don't know until we get there.
It's going to be tough to tell until about the first week of April.
Yeah, my point is that you've got playoff teams on this last month of the schedule, and you want to take those games seriously, but you can't sleep on the other teams that are coming in that are struggling, like Dallas. You know, you can't allow those kind of situations to trip you up. Because I look at the Pistons and I see a team that is somewhat similar to that first postseason team for the Lions, where, you know, sure, the Lions were pretty clearly good enough to be a postseason team. They stayed in the hunt for that entire season, but then it was like, okay, well, you haven't been to the postseason in forever. How are you going to perform once you get there? And then they got home field advantage, and that allowed them to pick up 2 wins in their first trip to the postseason in well over, you know, I don't know. I don't remember how long it had been. It had been close to a decade. I know. You know, they were able to have some success in the postseason. Detroit the Pistons want to be in the same situation where they get to the postseason and they have some success. I don't think there's a whole lot. I'm sure there's some value in just making the postseason. The Tigers are coming off of such a season where you made it. Nobody thought you could, and you did. But you didn't do anything when you got there. That can be a little bit disappointing, and it can be disruptive. So to avoid that, still want to finish the season strong, get as high of a seeding as you can, give yourself as much of an advantage as you can, and use that to your advantage and come out looking good. That's the point that I am trying to get across.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're going to be just fine. Like I said, the end of the day, you're in the playoffs. That's the important thing to celebrate. It's been almost 10 years.
Yeah.
They haven't made the playoffs since the 2015-2016 season. So it's been 9 years. I don't care what seed they get and where they land. This is a successful season based off of that alone.
Right. You just want to get the most out of it.
Yes. And to me, the most is one playoff series. If we
playoff game.
Like if we end up, getting into the East semis or the Eastern Conference Finals, cool. But if we don't, cool.
Right.
We were back in a playoff series, and I think that's what everybody kind of just wants to get back to, even inside the locker room. Like, sure, they want to win a championship. Sure, they want to win the Eastern Conference finals and like all those things, but they also understand the goal setting and the baby steps that comes with it. And this is just one of many goals that they have of getting back to the playoffs, eventually leading back to a championship.
All right, let's pay a little quick attention to the Detroit Red Wings. It's been a struggle here recently. 6-game losing streak here in the middle of March is not something you wanted to experience. The only win that they've got to speak of is against the Buffalo Sabres, one of the worst teams in the NHL. I mean, things are starting to look dire for the Red Wings, especially trying to figure their playoff positioning. It is tumbling by the day on their chances of reaching the postseason. They should have made it last year, fell short right at the end, and now it looks like something not quite similar, but much more, frustrating is happening to them now. They're 2 points back from the Columbus Blue Jackets, who got them in 2 games here recently back to back, and they're 7 points back from the Ottawa Senators. This gap is starting to get really, really big, and the writing is nearly on the wall here for the Red Wings.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is on the wall. Like, the writing is there. If you don't win a handful of these next 10 games, your season's just about done. The lead is just growing too far. You're losing games that you have to win. And that's just one of those things in hockey. Like, it's hard to explain. I think it's very similar to baseball, where like one team can be on top or doing very well, and then that same team with basically the same players could turn around the next year and do nothing. And that's kind of what we're seeing with the Red Wings, is they're making a push and they still look okay, but they're not the team that we saw last year, and they're probably not going to make this late season push like we saw last year either.
I mean, they hardly look like the team that we saw before the All-Star break. And tough games coming up. Vegas on Sunday, at Washington on Tuesday, Vegas on the following week. They could be eliminated completely from the playoffs by the end of the month if they don't straighten up their act. And that's so frustrating, because they had a 7-game win streak just before the All-Star break, come back on the other side of that, and they're somewhere in the territory of like 3-10 since the All-Star break. It's a tough place to be in, for the Red Wings. Let me get that right. They're 3-7 since the All-Star break. So not the anticipated performance that we expected, but it is reality. The Detroit Red Wings close to being eliminated from playoff contention for yet another season. All right, we'll take a break. And when we do, we will, come back and talk a little Detroit Tigers. Spring training has been underway. We'll talk about what they have in store for themselves in the coming season. Next here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK.
Detroit sports fans, Wolverines and Spartans alike. This is your sports show, Mitten Madness, with Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes on 95.3 WBCK.
All right, we're back here on Mitten Madness 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. We'll talk about the Detroit Tigers and spring training here in just a bit. Do want to first tell you about Third Coast Move Managers. They are helping me out in a big way, moving me from Battle Creek to Kalamazoo. Small apartment to apartment moving is something that they specialize in, but they're even better at helping you with senior moving services, whether it's downsizing or moving to assisted living situations, real estate market preparations. All of these types of things are things that Third Coast Movers can help you out with. Find them online, thirdcoastmove.com, or give them a call, 269-271-3650. You can also find them on Facebook and LinkedIn and Yelp and those types of things, and they can help you with your small move or senior moving services. All right, let's talk about the Detroit Tigers, team that made the postseason last year. Was a little bit of a surprise, but hey, when you can pitch better than everybody else and you got the AL Cy Young Award winner on your roster, good things are going to happen to you. And then the Tigers found a way to get really, honestly, even better. They got Jack Flaherty back. They've got Jackson Jobe as a promising rookie. And they also went out and got Alex Cobb. Go get a veteran who's done this a time or two. Tigers might still be a little bit questionable on the hitting side of things, but pitching, Detroit might still very well be the best pitching team, or up there with them. I know Cleveland's still really good too, but up there with the best of the best when it comes to teams and pitching.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they've done a great job so far in spring training. They're 9-1 at the moment. I'll take that. I think that there's a lot they can progress in. Spencer Torkelson getting back into the rotation as far as the batting lineup and getting back in the outfield and taking some runs there, coming back from his injury. Obviously, we're expecting Cy Young winner Tariq Skubal to pick up right where he left off. He's only pitched one game so far, but he is 1-0. So
spring training, you don't need to be using him.
We don't, but he went out and got a win. We'll be interested to see what Olsen's able to do for the year. What can Jobe do? I really personally don't want Casey Mize throwing pitches for the Detroit Tigers, but that is my personal opinion. And what I've seen from him, I personally don't like. I feel like there are better options for the bullpen, but at the moment, I do feel like the Tigers have a pretty solid rotation. When you look at, Skubal starting it off, getting Jack Flaherty back in the fold, Jobe's going to be a nice rookie to come in and make things pop. Olsen is still in the rotation, et cetera. So there's definite opportunities here for this team to make a run as long as their bats are able to stay healthy. Speaking of guys like Spencer Torkelson and, who's the Carpenter. As long as those two are able to stay healthy, things really change and they're able to keep momentum. I think last year, those two going down and having to mix up the lineup caused a lot of domino effect, factors to change the way the bats were working. And that's why they weren't necessarily scoring runs last year. I mean, obviously it's just spring training, but 7, 4, 8, 5, 7, 7, 4, 7, or 17, 11, 10, 5,
102 runs in 18 games is not bad. It's middle of the road. They're 17th in the league, but 250 batting average, 21st in the league. It's still not horrendous. So there's still room for improvement. I think one thing to point out though is another offseason acquisition in Gleyber Torres. He leads the team in RBIs. Like those are the little things that can kind of help spur along the at-bat opportunities that the Tigers have, is getting the most out of guys who have been who are new, but you also want to get the most out of guys who have been here for a minute. I mean, I tell you what would really revolutionize this team is if Javier Baez just doesn't have a repeat of whatever the hell last season was.
I just cut him.
Well, I mean, you're not really in a situation to be able to do that. He's there and you got to deal with it.
No, well, who's not? I don't care if you pay him after he's not here. Cut him. At least, like, there's no cap. There's no cap. You can spend as much money as you want in baseball. Cut him and go get somebody who's actually going to do the job. Because this is not it.
Hold on. 263 batting average. This is all spring training for Javi Baez. 263 batting average. Let's see. 6 RBIs isn't bad. I mean, it's only a couple back from Reyes. 3 doubles, 5 hits. He's not doing anything absolutely spectacular, but I mean, if he's going to be here, he's just got to be better than what last year was. And I think we're all in agreement. It's not a very high bar. But if Javier Baez, the highest paid player on the roster, is going to be here, he can't be one of the worst players on the team, which was too close to the situation last year. So, I mean, you want those bats to be alive. I'm not saying it starts with him. It starts with the guys that we already mentioned: Torkelson, Carpenter, Reyes. But Baez has to do more. Torres, excuse me, not Reyes. But Baez has to do more.
I'm not buying it. I'm not leaning on him. I'm not anything from him. Not expecting it. I fell for this trap last year. His spring training was good, and then he went out there and just laid down.
Yeah. He had a couple of times where it looked like he might be coming back, and it did not last long.
I'm not falling for it.
Yeah.
You sold me. And in baseball, like, I get it. You can have a little slump.
Yeah.
But like, this is like this guy's MO. Like, he's good.
He's done.
He's good for a while, and then he's not. And then he's good for a while, and then he's not. Then he's good for a while. Like, no, bro. No. That's dead.
Not to be the best, not to be the highest paid person.
You are the star.
Yeah.
You can't play like that as a star.
Yeah.
Don't want him on the squad. No disrespect to him, but just where the trajectory of the current Tigers organization, he doesn't fit the mold.
I mean, at the very least, I think if he is too similar to last year's Javier Baez, I mean, he's going to be gone by the trade deadline. No way that they bring him back after an extended period of not getting the value that they invested in him. And, this is a team that I think expects to be in the postseason this year because it looks like they are a touch better than they were last year. Not crazy, over the top significant improvements, but this is a team that I think that expects to be in the postseason. And if Javier Baez can't help them win a postseason series, then he just shouldn't be here. So he's got a set number of months where he's got to contribute and show that he belongs here. Otherwise, I think he's going to be one of the first guys out the door come trading time to try to improve this team and send them over the top. Because I think, again, similar or opposite of what they were last year, because they sold a little bit and then just surged out of nowhere. But if the Detroit Tigers are in a buying mode come trade deadline time, Javier Baez might be one of the pieces that's for sale in order to find a way to improve. But we'll see how that all goes. We've got a lot of games to pick. 6 games on the docket. Unfortunately, no college basketball games because of the way the tournaments work. But we're going to make our picks on some big basketball games in the NBA, UFC fight, and a big game for the Detroit Red Wings. We're doing that next here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK.
95.3 WBCK.
All right, we're back here on Mitten Madness, 95.3 WBCK. Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes. We're set to make our picks for the weekend. A lot of big NBA games going on. We're going to pick a few of those and more. But first, DJ, you got to update us on those standings. How did last week go?
Jacob, my boy, 4-2.
Let's go.
So you know what that means for me. I went 2-4. I ain't too hot right now.
I swear.
But my comeback's on the way.
Oh no, because this happens every year. You throttle me in football. It looks closer than it really is in football. And then we start the basketball season.
and you out the gate. You're
somehow I'm doing okay.
Yeah, after 4-2, you're 16-8, and I am coming in 3 games behind at 13 and 11. So not too far, but definitely enough to make a difference.
Doubling them up. All right, let's get back at it. I'll get us started in SoCal. The Golden State Warriors are hosting the New York Knicks. Maybe not a NBA Finals preview, but still 2 pretty good teams, and they're going to go at it tonight, 8:30 on ABC and ESPN+. Plus, the Warriors do have the slight advantage according to the analytics. DJ, who do you got?
This is going to be shocking to everyone because the Knicks are 42-23 on the year. They are 3rd in the East.
21-12 on the road.
But I'm going with the Warriors because there's a certain someone who's out for an extended period of time, and it just doesn't operate the same without him. Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson not playing for the Knicks is going to be huge. I do think this game will still be close because the Warriors are not the Warriors we are used to. But without Jalen Brunson, I don't know if the Knicks offense has enough to take down the Warriors.
Yeah, they played on the 4th of March, and Golden State won that one in the Garden. And since then, the Knicks have been on what is now the 5th game of a 5-game road trip. Where they are split so far and had 2 overtime trips. They've played a lot of basketball here on the road here recently. I agree with you. I think the Warriors, they're just set up for a better chance at success in this game than the Knicks are. But yeah, good game. Warriors win.
That's going to get us over into our next NBA game. This one is going down on Sunday, March 26th. Crypto.com. The Staples Center.
I was about to say, that's the Staples Center. I ain't acknowledging this Crypto.com arena crap.
The Staples Center, where the Lakers are 25-7 this year with a 40-24 record, welcoming in the 30-36 Suns. Do Kevin Durant and Devin Booker have enough to take down LeBron James and Luka Doncic, or will the Lakers continue being a premium at-home team?
Yeah, a team that sucks at playing on the road and a team that is really good at playing at home. I think I'm going to go with the Lakers on this one.
Yeah, I'm going with the Lakers too. I didn't realize the Lakers were this good at home. Like I had no clue they were 25-7 this year at the Staples Center, but like it tracks. That makes sense. I feel like the Staples Center is like one of the hardest, if not the hardest NBA arena to play in. It's the Lakers. There's so much history and things that sit there. So I would not be the least bit surprised to find out, that the Lakers are dominating at home once again.
I mean, slight chance LeBron isn't available in that game. I mean,
no, he's not.
Yeah, so
there's not a slight chance he's not.
Oh, he's out. Okay.
Yes. He's out with he's got a groin injury.
I appreciate the air quotes on the radio.
Well, LeBron ain't listening. He do this every year. He does it every year around this time. He has this mysterious groin injury that keeps him out for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. It's like, okay, dude, you're resting. We get it.
Luka keep him all right, I think. I don't know. I feel like he's one of the best players in the NBA. It might be all right. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Indiana Pacers heading over to take on the Milwaukee Bucks. 2 very strong teams from the Eastern Central Division. Really kind of neck and neck all season long, even after Milwaukee's early struggles in the season. Both these teams pretty evenly matched, though Milwaukee significantly better at home compared to Indiana's record on the road. Indiana 15-18 on the road, Milwaukee 22-11 at home. I don't know how to pronounce that stadium name, DJ, so I'll leave that one to you. But the Bucks do have
the Fee-Serve Forum.
You need to go talk to Adam Silver about these stupid ass arena names.
It's not his fault that they're the ones with the money to pay for it. Talk to these companies about their dumb names.
Bucks do have a 60% chance of winning. So, DJ, who you got? You got the Pacers or the Bucks?
I think I'm going to rock with the Bucks here. As much as I want the Pacers to win this game for obvious reasons for the Pistons, that record on the road really scares me. 15-18 away.
That's tough.
It's tough it is tough to win on the road in any level of sports, but to be pretty much 500 in a game that you need to win at a team that's doubled up at home, 22-11, it's a tough scenario to go into. I trust the Bucks to be comfortable at home. When you look, they've won a large majority of their games at home. 22 of their 37. Are at home. So I think they're actually closer to the Pacers in terms of their split on the road. winning only 15 games on the road. They're actually 15-15 or 15-17, something like that on the road. So they're very similar to the Pacers, but I got the Bucks taking this one.
Yeah, Pacers won this game just a few days ago at home. They won by a point over the Bucks in their own house. Now they head over to Milwaukee's, and I think they head over there to lose. You can't be that bad on the road against a team that's that good at home. These teams kind of mirror each other, so I expect another tight game, but Milwaukee's going to pick up the win at home.
Detroit basketball. Stand on your feet, Pistons. No, I'm kidding. The Pistons are welcoming in highly ranked on the Western Conference Oklahoma City Thunder. They're 54-12 on the year, 25-7 on the road. Not 25-7 at home, 25-7 on the road. Pistons 18-15 at home. Can the Pistons do what they did last year and beat the Thunder at home? I was at that game, so you're welcome. Or will the Thunder come in and kind of steal the joy and keep the Pistons fighting for their playoff spot?
Man, Oklahoma just went on the road and beat Boston. They split a 2-game home series against Denver. They beat Memphis on the road, whereas the Pistons just came off a loss against the worst team in the league. You know, transitive property doesn't exist in any level of sport. But the Oklahoma City Thunder are pretty damn good. The Detroit Pistons still trying to figure themselves out a little bit, keeping pace with Indiana and Milwaukee. I do think it'll be a fun game. I think it'll be close. I think the Pistons will show that they're competitive once again against an NBA Finals contender, but the Thunder are pretty geeked, man. I think they're going to win.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with the Thunder here as well. I think this one comes down to how good they've been on the road, and then you're coming off a win against arguably the best team in the NBA outside of yourselves and the Cavs and, you know, some other really good teams. The Celtics are going to be competing for an Eastern Conference Finals, maybe even an NBA Finals. They're still that good. So for them to go out, win that game on the road, and then they have another road game right after, I think the good momentum continues for them, and the Thunder are going to take down our beloved Pistons.
All right, back out on the ice, the Detroit Red Wings are at home tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. You can catch the game on TNT, True TV, or Max. They're hosting the Vegas Golden Knights, one of the best teams in the West, at Little Caesars Arena. Not necessarily a huge game, not a must-win by any stretch of the imagination, but one that could certainly boost the Detroit Red Wings' confidence heading into this last stretch of the regular season. Knights are 39-19. And 7, 15, 12, and 4 on the road, whereas the Red Wings are 17, 15, and 3 at home, just coming off of a home victory over the Buffalo Sabres, but they're 3-7 since the All-Star break. DJ, can the Red Wings pull off a huge upset at home against Las Vegas?
I'm going to answer this in the simplest way I know how. No. But also, seriously, teams that play a faster pace of hockey make it very hard for the Wings to keep up with them. Even though this game is at Little Caesars Arena, if there's one thing that the Vegas Golden Knights have done, not only this year, but since their inception as an expansion program in the NHL, this franchise plays fast. Mm-hmm. Looking at it, they're averaging just over 3.3 goals per game. They're averaging just under allowing 2.7 goals per game, but they're putting 30 shots on net every game, almost 31. But they're only allowing their opponents to put 26 shots on net. And it's back and forth. They're limiting their penalties as well. So they're playing up and down the ice, fast pace, looking to get shots in high volume to then go out and score as many goals as they can. The Wings don't necessarily do well in those up and down games. I'm going to take the Golden Knights.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. Keep it safe, keep it simple. Golden Knights walk into Little Caesars, leave with a win.
I see what you're doing here. I'm paying attention. I just want you to know that. I'm paying attention to you.
I feel like because we couldn't pick any college basketball games, some of these games are a little bit more straightforward.
Yes,
than you would probably, but
no,
I'm
watching you. That's all.
I'm not purposefully picking the same games as you.
UFC Fight Night going down in the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Later tonight, Marvin Vettori from Italy taking on Roman Dolidze from Georgia. Dolidze is coming in 6'2", 185, 36 years old, 76-inch reach fighting Orthodox, coming in on the other side with a 14-3 record. Coming in on the other side, Vettori, 6 foot, 186, 31 years old, 74-inch reach, fighting Southpaw with a 19-7-1 record. This is the second time they have fought, and give me just a second, but if I'm not mistaken, Vettori won round 1. As I gather that information, Vettori emerged victorious in this bout via a unanimous decision. Does the same happen? Does something different happen? You let me know what's popping with Vettori and Da'Jzon this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, odds favor the idea of it going the distance again, but that's most likely just because that's what happened last time. I was going to pick Roman just off of name recognition alone because I've at least heard of him. Cannot say the same for Marvin Vettori. But Vettori is pretty good at everything here. And you got to give it up for the guy that's, a couple years younger, but has a better, percentage chance of landing his significant strikes, is better at taking guys to the ground, not quite as good at finishing this thing in submission, but the odds are actually in his favor to win this thing by submission, plus 800 compared to Roman's plus 1300. So, I don't know. I'm going to go with the books on this one. I'm going to take the Italian, take Vettori to win this one. I do think it'll go to the distance, though. I don't think it'll finish early.
I'm going to go with Vettori here as well. This one may go the distance. These are two fighters that know each other quite well, and their fighting styles complement each other well. But I do think Vettori just kind of has the one up, even though he beat him the first time around. It's hard to beat someone twice. That gives us the same picks down the line. We're taking the Vegas Golden Knights, the Bucks, the Thunder, the Warriors, the Lakers, and Marvin Vettori. Get us into what should be a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, huge weekend. I mean, you got Selection Sunday tomorrow. You've got Big Ten tournament wrapping up this weekend as well. So enjoy all of the sports that are at your fingertips this weekend, Michigan. And we'll be back next week to talk about it more, 10 a.m. on a Saturday on 95.3 WBCK. For Da'Jzon Hughes, I'm Jacob Harrison. We'll see you guys next week. Take it easy.
Join Jacob Harrison and Da'Jzon Hughes every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for Mitten Madness on 95.3 WBCK. Miss the show or want to run it back? Stream Mitten Madness on demand on the WBCK app. Sponsored by airwaycashforjunkcars.com.